All right, what's good, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to I hate to say it, but I call it a T-ton edition, but a Michigan edition of Best Damn Media. Our guys Jovani and Darnell is here, and Ron as usual. So this is gonna be more of a Michigan angle. The old famous saying is, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. So we got rid of Cam and Mike, and we brought in Jovani and Darnell. So I want to give themselves a chance to introduce. So, Giovanni, we'll start with you. How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. How are you guys doing today?
Doing
Good,
pretty
man.
good. Doing pretty good.
Obviously, as he said, my name is Jovani. I've been a huge Michigan fan like my whole life. I'm on the younger side. I'm not more like the older folk. I'm only 22, so people always laugh at this. My first like real Michigan football memory where I can actually like interpret what's happening in the game. Tate Forcier was my quarterback. So I'm pretty young compared to a lot of other fans, but I'm a huge fan. I'm really devoted to this program, mostly on the football and basketball side. But I pay attention to everything like the hockey. We're in the Frozen Four, stuff like that. Um, I've met these guys through Twitter Spaces. If you guys are not familiar, it's where you can just talk, not just be in group chats. You can actually talk to people on Twitter. I met these guys last season around the October-ish mark, and ever since then we just kind of been just been cool with each other.
Oh, sounds good. And Darnell, go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's good, fellas? My name is Darnell, and I don't know about Giovanni. I don't know if we've been cool with him. Now I'm just playing. These some cool cats, man. Outside of the rivalry, Ryan, Q, Mike, uh, Cam, they all cool individuals. Like Giovanni said, met these guys in Twitter Spaces. I'll never forget being on the Twitter Space with Mike and Ryan and a couple of the other guys before I met Q, and they just yelling, and the rivalry was alive and well. And it was just a great time, and then we kind of clicked up after that. My a little bit about my background. Michigan's been in my blood all my life. I got family members that have coached, have played there. Two cousins that have played there. One football, one basketball. And so I've just been entrenched in it. Love everything about Michigan, except for my heart is I'm a Duke Blue Devil by heart in basketball, but everything else I rock with Michigan. Um, and I'm just happy to be here to share the stage with you guys. Kind of give you guys an angle of what we got going because we know each team is counting down to that day in Ann Arbor in November, that that Saturday after Thanksgiving. Super excited to be here and give you guys our angle.
Yeah. So, real quick, just want to ask, especially you guys have been following Michigan for different time lengths. What's your favorite Michigan football memory to date? And also, you cannot say the Ohio State game from last year, the year before. So we gonna go ahead and disregard those. But not for real. What's your favorite Michigan football memory?
I'd say what's up there for sure is probably 2011 Notre Dame under the lights. That was just a crazy game all around. I remember like jumping in my room when we came back in our fourth quarter. That's like one of the more prominent memories I've always wanted to be a part of. Like seeing the big house under the lights. It wasn't a maze out, but they had like the maze pom poms out, so it seemed like it was like more of a maze out. And actually, me being a part of one back last year in 2021 when we played Washington was like kind of checked it off my bucket list. Like I want to be at a night game because it reminded me of that game so much. You know what I mean? So definitely 2011 Notre Dame. It's been one of my best memories.
Hey, I guess I'm about to show my age. Y'all got the time machine.
Wait, I'm
Back
sorry. I'm
then.
sorry, Ron. It's a joke when it happened. It's Nebraska, Oklahoma.
I'm just sitting there and I look up and I see this guy with a handlebar mustache and behind Giovanni just watching the pod in disgust. Looks like the N word's on the tip of his tongue. Like, what are we doing?
I'm gonna just turn it off till I change it, bro.
Oh my god.
My
Oh
bad.
my
So
god.
so my memory is a little old school. I almost brought up Tim Bianca Matuka. just because at a young age, playing little league football, I wanted to be like Tim. Like he was just this nasty running back, right? My dad, huge Michigan fan, and my very first intro to the game was watching Michigan football. But I think if I had to do one that I could really, really remember, um, the '97 season, man. I was like 10 years old, impressionable, watching Charles Woodson, uh, unfortunately an Ohio person, uh, just tear the Big Ten up, bro, making plays that as a 10-year-old you look up and you like, how did he do it? Like the interception at Michigan State, one-handed on the sideline, jumping up, and then to end the season against Ohio State, um, having the rose in his mouth, talking about going to the Rose Bowl. At that time, we thought to play for a natty. Unfortunately, it was shared. Damn haters in the college, the football polls of the head coaches. But that probably was my greatest memory. I've had a lot more heartbreak over the past, I don't know, 15 years than I've had a joy. But '97, that year was electric.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
and
said
actually,
shared a trophy there. I mean, I seen that Jaden Davis graphic. There were 2 whole trophies on there. I was expecting to see at least one and
Man,
a
look, the
half.
young. I think what people have to understand about Jaden is setting the standard, right? And I love it. Yeah, we don't have college football national championships, but I think what Jaden is saying in that picture is, I'm gonna change that, right?
yeah,
If JJ is the floor now of beating Ohio State, we don't know what his record is gonna be when he leaves, but if that's the floor, Jaden is saying, look, I gotta go above that. I gotta bring championship trophies here because this is what this fan base wants and this is what they expect.
yeah, and actually, you touched on, but I was gonna ask. So, what is that moment that you have not got over? Like that least favorite moment in Michigan football
You
history,
want
or
me
where
to
you're
go
like, I
first?
can't let it go. Yeah, go ahead because you started it, so I wanted to ask that.
Oh, you already know what it is. I'm gonna argue until I'm in the grave that JT was short. Like
Oh my
I'm gonna
god.
make that argument. I'm gonna make that argument. I know it's saltiness. I get it. Look, we had other plays to make in that game so that didn't matter.
Hmm.
But if you ask any Michigan fan, the one that hurts the most is the JT was short, man. I when I walked outside my uncle's house and damn near cried that day. I ain't told nobody that story before, but I was punching air like Cuba Gooding Jr. was on Boys in the Hood. You know what I'm
So
saying?
this may make you guys feel a little bit better. I watched that play the other day just because I was in my feelings and I was like, I gotta put this on the timeline soon. And at first watch, I was like, And then we all know when you zoom in, you see a little better. It was clearly a first down, but I'm not
Clearly,
gonna cap. I rewatched it the other day and I had a little had to slow that thing down for a second because at first he bounced right off that lineman like he didn't get there, but we all know
Yeah.
he got there. But what about you, Jovani? What was your worst Michigan memory?
Um, yeah, definitely. My first instinct is to go to 2016 because I swear to you, when that happened, I've I've never been depressed in my life, and that was the closest I've ever felt to being depressed. Like I'm so serious. I didn't wear a Michigan shirt, hoodie, like the whole next week. I couldn't even look at it in my closet. I was just destroyed because I'm like, this is one of our best teams we ever had, blah, 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 how the season went, and just for it to end like that was just but another game though that really gave me real severe anxiety, I would say. 2018. 2018, we're going into the game. What was I think we were what 4-3 in the
5.
country.
yeah,
Yeah.
Um, we were 10-1 at the time, I believe. We only lost to Notre Dame by 7 on the road. We had the whole revenge tour narrative going on throughout the whole season. We destroyed Michigan State on the road. Our defense has pretty much was playing like the most dominant unit in the country at the time. And just to walk into Columbus like that and get 60 balled with ease at that. I mean, they and on that last drive when they took a knee was probably even more demoralizing because they were driving anyways. And we're done. Just take a knee at what was that? The 25 on our own 25 or something like that. They were
Yep.
literally driving.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
That was
I
the mercy play.
yeah, literally. And that was just so embarrassing as a fan just to witness that. Um, seeing our defense just get shredded apart like that, seeing our corners get picked on, seeing crossing routes over and over and over. It was just tough. It was just a very tough game, and just have all that hype going into it, and just for us to fall flat like that was probably one of the most disappointing and one of the worst feelings I've had as a Michigan fan, I would say.
Yeah, because I think too, some of the bad parts, because obviously we play in a lot of high stake games, is all of your friends who are not invested in like Ohio State or Michigan, when you lose, your phone is gonna blow up for the next, 2 hours. People just texting you like, what happened? And so that definitely makes a lot worse. But appreciate y'all sharing that most definitely. But let's hop into some better times. So Ron wanted to talk about recruiting and how it's going. Obviously, we just had the Jaden Davis commitment. He wasn't a take at Ohio State, but that's cool. He go over to Michigan and do his thing. But for real, it's big time recruitment. Darnell, you're more of the recruiting guy. Just give us the feel of how Michigan recruiting is going. Where do you see the potential for this class?
Man, so look, Jaden coming aboard was huge. I've been calling for Michigan to get their signal guy in for since last year, really. You need a quarterback because that attracts other players. I think there were receivers that went otherwhere last year because we didn't have a solid quarterback, right? So you got to have that. My fault. Well, you got to have that quarterback because he's like the alpha of the class. He puts the class together. And so getting Jaden on board was huge. I think we're going to have a bunch of recruits to follow in the next, probably the next 2 weeks. I know we have 2 big linemen that's going to probably announce here shortly. You'll start to see more receivers coming in. I know we're in for a couple, high 4 stars and a few 3 stars. I know the kid has 2 receivers at his school, Shipley and the Legacy. I think his last name is Goodwin. Both receivers are probably coming to Michigan. I know the Legacy and Goodwin will for sure. Shipley is kind of thinking about Michigan, North Carolina. I think Virginia Tech, maybe NC State, but to have him on board is huge. And to be honest with you guys, I think there was times in the fan base that we thought we weren't gonna get him. I mean, I know you guys did sniff around, and from everything I've heard, the kid looks up to Justin Fields. Just found out this weekend or past weekend that CJ and Bryce was helping him at a camp with Cam Newton, who's also his mentor. And so I do think the threats of Clemson and Ohio State were real. Even though Ohio State kind of passed on them the first time, I think it doesn't matter how much a team passes on you. If they're your dream school, you're going to listen, right? You'd be a fool not to. So getting him in the class was huge. I think this class can finish somewhere in the top 10. You guys know how recruitment goes. NIL changes things at the last minute. Glad that we've started a new NIL program, and I'll speak on that before we get out of here. But I think that's going to help us stay competitive in the top 10. And to take that next step to go into a consistent top 5 class like you guys do, we got to continue to ascend on the field, right? Going to 2 college football playoffs is good, but you can't lose to TCU. So I think that these kids in 24 and 25 are looking at the success we're having and saying, okay, we can see success. We can have success in Michigan. And so I think you'll start to see us really start to have consistent classes where we're top 5, at minimum top 10, but maybe pushing for a top 5 class to compete with the Penn States and Ohio States in the conference. And now the USC that's getting ready to join the conference.
So the rivalry has been a big topic in recruitment lately, going back and forth between the 2 teams. There's been shots from players on both sides. Jovani, what do you think that's doing for recruitment, and how much do you think, the rejuvenation of the rivalry is affecting recruiting on both sides?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's a positive thing all around. Kids love competition. If if you're this high in D1 sports or you're about to be a D1 athlete, you're looking to aspire to NFL, you are a competitor to yourself. You're an extreme competitor compared to the average person. And all the stuff off the field, especially like in high school, like say like your high school teammate, you're both getting looks at from Michigan and Ohio State, and you're leaning towards Michigan, and your friends leaning towards Ohio State. You know what I mean? Say you ended up committing to each of those schools, like that little spark itself can like get the rivalry going. Just from that standpoint of how early it is before we get on campus, and that can motivate a lot more recruits. To kind of maybe not even get a chip on their shoulder, just get them real motivated for even bigger things rather than just going to the school or just try to develop and get to the NFL. But like I said, the Michigan Ohio State rivalry is one of the biggest rivalry in sports, and that's the reason for that. I mean, we see it every single year. The stakes that we pretty much play at on a year in a year out basis. I mean, since 2015, since Harbaugh got here, you can arguably say about 4 of the rivalry games that we have played in November were playoff games. You know, those are borderline playoff games because if you lose, you're out, and that happened pretty much every time except last year. That's just happened the way it goes sometimes, but usually it is playoff games, and obviously with us going to the 12-team format, people like to argue like it kind of diminishes the rivalry, but I think it's still going to be there. I think the animosity will still be there for the players because at the end of the day, they don't like each other. These players do not like each other, especially when you're on that field. It's all about one goal. It's that you want to beat that team, and that's what you want to do. The season really comes down to beating that team, and you've seen coaches get fired over this. You can go 10-2 year in and year out, but if you keep losing to your rival consecutively, arguably you're at least on the hot seat because Harbaugh's on the hot seat, but you're usually out of there, and that just speaks to like the history and like just how important it is for this rivalry. So, like I said, going back to the kids, yeah. So when you see these recruits, like going back and forth on social media about it, like this is a very real thing. I mean, this is very important for these kids and what it means to them.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, we've seen now 2 sets of high school teammates now split between Michigan and Ohio State. We saw Cam Calhoun and Jermaine Matthews last cycle out of Winton Woods teammates. Jermaine Matthews now early enrollee at Ohio State. Cam Calhoun, we saw him out there yesterday in the spring game for Michigan, and now we have the Armstrong twins, and I believe their teammate Ben Roebuck is the one who was their teammate. Yeah, he is at Michigan now. He'll be at Michigan next year. The Armstrong twins will be at Ohio State. So clearly the rivalry is alive and well and showing itself in recruiting, even down to teammates having to choose sides. But I know we just mentioned the spring game, and Q, wanted to talk to them about some standouts for the spring game and get a little bit of an update of what they saw in their game yesterday.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it at all. I know I'm probably the only one who hasn't seen it in here. So if somebody hasn't caught it or really doesn't know what to expect from Michigan this season, let them know what you saw in the spring game, what you're looking forward to, and some of the highlight players.
Well, to start in the spring game, I'm gonna just get out the way. The quarterback play wasn't the best. From either all 4 of them that played. It wasn't really good all around. It was some flashes here and there from like players like Alex Orji, maybe what's our backup name, the guy from Indiana?
Warren?
Tuttle.
Yeah, Tuttle had
Tuttle played good.
Couple good plays.
He played okay. Yeah, he played okay.
But I say the main standout. So we have a wide receiver, Peyton O'Leary, who was a walk-on not too long ago. He had a really good game. You notice at the very beginning, JJ was starting to target him when he was still taking reps at quarterback. JJ was even targeting him over players like Darius Clemens, who was getting snaps last season. Josiah Stewart on the defensive side of the ball, he had a really good game. He had a couple plays in the backfield where he was disrupting plays. He I think got like 2 sacks possibly because they had a blow to play dead. And then another player I was paying attention to was AJ Barner, our transfer from Indiana tight end. I noticed they using him a couple of double tight end sets with Colston Loveland, who was also a standout freshman last year. And just the way they were using him, his athletic ability, especially off the catch, I think it's going to be very important this season compared to what we had last year with like a Schoonmaker. He was more of like a possession type where I think Barner can get a lot more yak this year. So those are my three that I really thought stood out for this game.
I'm gonna take a little bit different approach because I watched it from being a family, being in coaching. Watched it from a coach standpoint. So Kenneth Grant, I know the name is not familiar to a lot of people, but he will be big. I call him a unit. He sits in the interior. He's going to replace Mozzie Smith's role along with a few others. He had a real good play where I don't know if that's probably was our third string guard, but he literally demolished him, put him on the skates, and was in the backfield. He's real quick for his size, out of the state of Indiana, Maryville to be exact, or Merriman. Benjamin Hall, another low end running back, but he reminds me of Blake Corum. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Blake Corum, but the way that he hits the hole, he's kind of short, stocky like Blake. He hides behind linemen until he can see a hole and pops it. And then the third person, of course, O'Leary, like Jovani talked about, was somebody that stood out. And those are the three. I will say that I did hear that JJ took the game last year that he lost against TCU personal. And I heard that he had put on about 10 pounds, which showed on the field. I heard he's been working on his feet. And I can see he's been working on it. He still got some growth to do. He threw a inexcusable pick, and then the other pick, I could say he probably shouldn't have threw that one, even though it was a pass interference. But I did see him drive on a couple balls that looked like they had some zip on it, and so I do realize that he's working on his craft, and we just as Michigan fans got to hope that he continues to do that and growth over the summer, because what I tell Michigan fans all day is we don't need him to be CJ Stroud, right? We don't have that type of offense, but what we do need him to be is like Stetson Bennett, and you still have to make people respect the passing game and understand concepts, and so that's the things that I look forward to. Those were the highlights. We had some other highlights with some lower guys, but overall, I think the team is in good shape. We didn't take any big injuries, which is always huge because you want to go into the summer as healthy as possible, especially with those incoming freshmen. So that was my takeaways from the game. Very lackluster, but it did start to turn up at the end because they were playing for a steak dinner. The maize team won, so they got the steak dinner last night. The blue team had to eat hot dogs. So
I'm sure your blue team with the Michigan NIL was not eating hot dogs for dinner, but whatever Harbaugh wants to tell you guys to get you Michigan men riled up, so be it. As the lone Buckeye fan here that watched the Michigan spring game, we watched it on playback with these guys. It was a good time. I enjoyed the beginning. It was very exciting. JJ McCarthy threw up one of those fuse neck Peyton Manning wobblers for an interception, and that was great for the Buckeye fans to see. But I did see JJ step into a few throws and drive when he had a really nice ball outside the hashes and out on an out route. He really stepped into it. So to see him throw that deep out is good to see. But his plays really stood out during the spring game. He was all smiles the whole time. He seemed to be engaged, talking to everyone. So as a returning starter, I think for Michigan fans, that's good to see. Even with not the greatest performance, he seemed engaged, locked in, and established himself as a leader on that team that people are looking to throughout the game.
Yeah, I do want to ask. We touched on a lot of players, but as far as position groups go, like for us, it would be the secondary. We want to see a big jump from the secondary from last year to this year. Is there a certain position group where you're like, if these guys can really get going and improve on last year, this team can kind of step up another level?
Yes, I would say our front four for our defensive line. I think last year, I think our downfall, I would say personally, for this team primarily fell on the defensive line, especially in that TCU game. We were barely creating any pressure consistently in that game. And if you look at any big game, if we're being honest, in our Ohio State game, we weren't really creating that much upfront pressure without having to send an extra guy. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really important factor that we have to consider because even if your DBs aren't up to par where you want them to be, if your front four are creating that much havoc back in the quarterback's face, it makes their job that much easier. And I would say there are a lot of question marks with our cornerback position because we have one of them solidified, which is Will Johnson. But we're looking for who's going to fill that cornerback two role. And as of now, we think it's going to be a Marion Walker. For signs are pointing towards it, but I mean, he did not have the best day yesterday. He was pretty much, I wouldn't say get picked on, but he was getting targeted a little bit, and O'Leary was taking advantage of him a bit, especially with the pretty good ball placement and stuff. But he got caught for a lot of holding and PIs. So we're still developing that position. I do have faith though, and that's why I leaned more towards the defensive line because I think if you look at our recent history with our corners, I mean, we've I would say we developed that position pretty well throughout Harbaugh's tenure. I mean, if you look at corners like Stribling, Jordan Lewis, Levert Hill, players to that caliber. I mean, even if you look at DJ Turner, um, we've pretty much been fine at corner. We haven't really had any lackluster performances on a consistent day in and day out basis. Obviously, other than 2020. But my whole thing is, if you look at 2020 with Jamon Green and Vincent Gray, it's a 9 day difference between how they played in 2020 and 2021. Um, you can see Jamon Green solidify himself as that cornerback one, and Vincent Gray played with a lot more confidence in 2021 as compared to 2020. So, yeah, I definitely would say defensive line is what I would hope to have the biggest jump in this offseason. And I'm going to leave that Darnell with that.
Well, I'm gonna go real quick because I want to give you guys the update that I've been following on the NIL. For me, it's simple. It's wide receivers. I know we can play and talk a lot about JJ, but our wide receivers, if you really go back and watch some of our more pivotal games, they just didn't show up. Dropping balls, not running crisp routes, getting jammed up a lot at the line. So I'm hoping that we take the next step with these wide receivers because they should be running wide open with people putting 6 and 7 in the box and stop Blake Horn and Donovan Edwards. So hopefully we're able to improve. I know they're going to add uh, Donovan to the passing game with Blake on the field at the same time to put stress on defenses. So I just want to see us take the next step in the passing game. I know we can run the ball, but the update on NIL, we just launched a new nonprofit called the Hell. I think it's called the Hell Collective or Hell Nonprofit. It's going to be revolutionary because I think this is the first time we're going to see something like this at the Power Five level. I know SMU does it and a few others do it, but Michigan is going to like a salary cap type payment. Um, the number that's being floated out there is going to be around 40,000 per player um, per year. That's not including what you can get with your other NIL opportunities. That's just what you're getting as a baseline for being a Michigan football player, which I think is crazy. I think it's good because our NIL was not existent for real, and so now that these kids are going to have something tangible that when a coach walks in and say, "Hey, look, we can't offer your son $1 million, $3 million. That's not what we do. But if while your son is a Michigan football player, we can't offer him 40 grand a year. Um, that's 20 a semester. That's more than a lot of these kids have seen their whole life. Um, and so, super excited about it. We got a lot of the big donors. From what I've been hearing, a lot of the big donors are getting ready to employ money in the Steve Rosses, and a few others. So our NIL should pick up here in the next couple of weeks once it kind of gets ironed out and the current players started to receive those payments. So that's what we got for NIL.
Yeah, no, it's good to see the North schools start to really jump in because we can't be having recruiting cycles with 1 5 star in the conference. Like that's even, I mean, even smaller schools like Wisconsin or I don't know, Indiana, like just get one. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
yeah.
it's good to see Michigan stepping up their NIL. Hopefully, Ohio State will follow suit, but I think you guys have the lead on that as far as even the conference goes. And that 40K, that don't sound too bad. I might see if I got a little eligibility left. You
That's
know
what
what
I
I'm saying?
said.
I
I
might,
might play a little guard. You know what I'm
might,
saying?
might be able to run a route. Oh man. But appreciate you guys joining. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. But before we do, go ahead and Jovani, you can start. Let everybody know if they disagree with anything you said and be like, nah, man, JJ ain't got it this season. Where can they find you at?
All right, so you can find me on Twitter. All right, it's Jovani _1024. If you want to find me, that's where I'll be at. I'm always on there. Actually, I'm pretty much in a space or I'm on the timeline somewhere. So if you really want to reach me, find me on Twitter. I'll be there.
Darnell.
Same with me. Best place to reach me. If you got questions, I'm always willing to answer the questions that I can answer. My first name Darnell J Porter. That's my ad on Twitter. Like Giovanni say, you always see us in either Michigan Spaces or Best Damn Media Spaces, chopping it up. So you definitely find me there.
Yeah. So this is gonna be the Best Damn Media Michigan update. Ron, give us a timeline on how often we're gonna see this.
We're gonna be doing this once a week for the next probably 2 or 3 months, and then hopefully we will be standing up a Michigan pod with Darnell and Jovani to start the season next year. So we're gonna be doing a Best Damn Media Michigan update weekly to give the Buckeye fans a look inside their program and to give Jovani and Darnell's Michigan fandom let them see what they're talking about in Michigan and keep their fans up to date with what they're seeing going on. And they're going to be talking all things Michigan this fall.
Yeah, and there also is a cap warning. So some stuff you hear may be over exaggerated or over dramatized. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there. But no, I appreciate you guys. Also, if you don't know, we have our Buckeye BS we do every Sunday at 10 a.m. So go ahead and check in there. We'll do weekly updates. We're gonna talk all kind of stuff, and it's always a good time. And the chat is live like it was today. But Ron, where is everywhere they can find Best Damn Media?
They can find us at Best Damn Media on Twitter. You can find us at BDMG on TikTok, Best Damn Media on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter at 2_TEES, 2Ts. And yeah, reach out to us on Twitter if you don't like our takes. Come to our spaces, pull up on playback. We are in front of the camera entirely too much, but I'm sure there's plenty of places that you can find us. Can you tell them a little bit about minor league films and then get us out of here?
Yeah, if you want to find me on Twitter, City Boy Quentin. Also, if you're in the movies, I do minor league films on YouTube. So check that out. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, man, appreciate you guys